A new Quinnipiac poll indicates that 64% of Republican voters support Joe Biden's proposed stimulus checks, really survival checks, of $1,400. Now, this is important because despite what Republican lawmakers want, what's really important here is that this is a point of unity among American voters, and that's where the focus should be. So the stimulus, of course, is desperately needed. And what we're unfortunately hearing from the Biden administration is a willingness to concede to the Republican Party on strict means testing in order to lower the number of Americans who are eligible for direct survival checks. So let me note that 10 GOP lawmakers did meet with Biden this week to propose a scaled back bill that would cost $618 billion, roughly 1/3 the size of Biden's, and lower the direct payments from $1,400 to $1,000. The Republicans' proposed package would also lower the income threshold. This is the means testing I was talking about for payment eligibility, meaning that fewer Americans would be able to receive the benefit. So Biden luckily said that he will not lower the amount of money that will be offered to people through these survival checks. However, he is willing to consider stricter means testing. And that was something that Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, also seemed to indicate during a recent press briefing. Let's take a quick look at that.
Today on the call with House Democrats, the president talked about better targeting the stimulus checks. I'm wondering if you could just explain what he meant by that and what might be under consideration.
Sure. Well, as we've said in here a few times, but I know this is an ongoing process. The president, having served in the Senate for 36 years, fully recognizes that the bill he proposed, that he did a primetime address on 2 weeks ago, that may not look exactly like the bill that comes out, and he knows that. That's part of the legislative process. So further targeting means not the size of the check. It means the income level of people who receive the check, and that's something that has been under discussion. There has been a conclusion, but certainly he's open to having that discussion.
No, don't be open to having that discussion. Pass it through reconciliation. It's popular. There's unity in the country in terms of voters being in favor of the $1,400 direct check. 64% of Republicans are in favor of it. Stop trying to unify with trashy Republican politicians who don't care about helping people out. Do this through reconciliation. Stop negotiating. Let's move on with our lives. Cenk.
So a couple of things here too. First of all, there's no question at all what is actually bipartisan. We have the poll, 2/3 of Republican voters want the higher checks. No question. Over 90% of Democrats want it. Over 80% of the country wants it. No question. Do we live in a democracy or don't we? Because it's not like, hey, it's 52-48 and maybe the poll's a little off and is it in the margin of error? It's 80% of the country that says we definitely want it. Now, this is why I often get frustrated at the media, because when you turn on television, they're telling you the bipartisanship is to go against 80% of the country. Well, now you know that doesn't make any sense, and that's why the mainstream media has lost credibility. That's why part of the reason why the right wing is going to look for answers in all the wrong places, because they know that when they turn on TV, they're not getting the truth. So now, the other issue is political. When you agree to compromise with the Republicans, well, what it forces you to do is what you saw Jen Psaki doing there at the end. She started defending better targeting, which means less of you get the checks. That means tens of millions of you will not get any check at all because we targeted you out of help entirely, okay? Now, if you were opposed to the Republicans, you could point out that quote unquote better targeting means we're not gonna give it to you. If you make above $50,000, you're not gonna get a nickel. If you make above $40,000, you're gonna get less and less and less. And you could hammer them on that, and it would actually really piss off 2/3 of their own voters, let alone 80% of the country. But instead, you saw her defending a Republican point. So it forces the Democrats to defend Republican positions because they've now adapted them in their so-called compromise. Now, how is that for terrible politics and branding and framing? And then you wonder, why are the Democrats constantly losing elections they shouldn't lose? Well, they frame them all of the issues in favor of their opposition. That's why you lose. And so when they ran an election in Georgia where they said, we're going to get you $2,000 checks unequivocally, they won in Georgia, both seats. The minute they win, they turn around and help their Republican friends, and immediately they start losing popularity. And guys, one last thing on framing and why it's so important. When they ask the question in this particular poll, but it's true in all the polls, hey guys, do you want this size of the check? Everybody says yes, right? In the numbers that we gave you. When they ask, are you in favor of Biden's plan, which is the same exact thing, right? This size of check, et cetera. More Democrats say yes. It goes from like 90 to 97, but that's not much of a difference. But for Republicans, it goes from 64% saying yes to 37% saying yes. So it drops in half. It drops off a cliff. Still 37% go, I don't care that it's Biden's. I could do math. That's a higher number. I want that, right? But it loses all sorts of popularity because the Republican Party has destroyed the brand of the Democratic Party. They've hit it, destroyed it, right? And so since they've damaged it so badly, the minute you say it's Biden's plan, Republicans go, no, then that's it. I don't want more money. The reason I'm telling you that, guys, is because framing is everything in politics. And the Democrats, when they choose to frame things in a way that helps the other party, hurts their chances and hurts our chances of getting better legislation. And they've done this for 40, 50 years. Either they don't get it in the entirety of Democratic leadership, which does not speak well of them, or they're doing it on purpose because they actually all agree that the donors should be helped more than you should be helped.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.